Yeah, I've seen enough. Let's just put Glen Powell in every movie from now on. What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. I saw Hitman weeks ago, just got a chance to see it again. I'm excited to talk about this movie. Glen Powell, Richard Linklater, and a lot of Glen Powells.
There are too many of them. What are we going to do?
No, I don't buy it.
What?
You're not a hitman. You can't be.
So a professor moonlighting as a hitman of sorts for his city police department descends into dangerous, dubious territory when he finds himself attracted to a woman who enlists his services. This film's rated R for language, sexual content, some violence. It's a romantic comedy. Austin, a movie called Hitman about an assassin of sorts. Yeah, it's a romantic comedy, and it really leans into that about halfway through the film. But in the beginning, we get Glen Powelling it up. That's right. He's a verb now.
You son of a bitch.
To be honest, that's something I didn't know he was capable of. I know he was a good actor, but the range that he's able to showcase in these very limited roles, because we mostly get two different versions of the same character, but the montages that we see where he's playing these other people, where he's trying to come across to the people that are hiring this hitman as someone who would appeal to them. But at the end of the day, is he truly who he says he is, even to us, the audience? And that's what's so fun about the appeal of Hitman, at least in the first half of the movie. There are around 30 to 40 minutes where we get a lot of that. Sitting down at a table, having discussions with the people who are trying to hire him, and then boom, we got him right where we want him. And that was a fun montage, series of montages, and I was really enjoying the movie at that point. Now, it's a romantic comedy first and foremost. There are some action sequences, but they're very limited. A lot of people are going to see Hitman, expect an action movie. That's not what it is. And then a lot of people are maybe going to expect laugh out loud comedy. That's not what this is either. The romance is first and foremost. The comedy is there, but it's more subtle and creative and quirky humor that kind of carries your enthusiasm all the way through to where you're not laughing out loud, but you're just kind of charmed. But also Adria Arjona as Maddie, who comes across one of his alter egos. So she doesn't get to know Gary. And Gary is just kind of this nerdy professor. He's a philosophy teacher. So some of the things that he's talking about in the beginning when we get those sequences, admittedly, I wanted more sequences of Gary as a teacher, because those were interesting. And the things that he's saying in the beginning come into play and apply to what he's doing behind the scenes that his students clearly do not know about. And that was interesting. I do wish they would have included that a bit more. But Gary, the philosophy teacher, he's boring. Ron is cool. He's a badass killer. He's a hitman, and boy, is he attractive to all the ladies, especially one lady in particular. And if you like rom-coms for the steamy sequences, there are plenty of those here. They don't go overboard, so it's not like 50 Shades level, but you get some of those moments between these two characters. But again, she knows his alter ego. She doesn't know Gary. And as things play out, and he gets further and deeper into the characters that he's playing, this story kind of goes off the rails. And I don't mean in a bad way. I mean for our characters, the deeper situations that they continue to see themselves in. And that's what makes for an entertaining movie in Hitman. Now, with any other director, I don't know if it would have worked as well. But you have Richard Linklater here. And Richard Linklater is really good at creating accessible films for families and audiences, but also sometimes deeper stories, Oscar-type films, occasionally capturing youth and what it means to be at a certain point in our lives. And in this movie, you got a little bit of everything. Obviously, it's not a coming-of-age story, but I think it will manage to appeal to general audiences, and a lot of people just kind of tuning into Netflix. You need something to watch in the background, but also giving us compelling enough characters, good enough performances, and just a charming, and I mean charming, story and script to where it's going to work for almost everyone. Now, is this a game-changing romantic comedy? I don't think so. I saw the initial response, and I'm like, all right, we're talking an Oscar film, we're talking the next big, and it's not that.
Son of a bitch!
But it didn't need to be that, and I'm glad it wasn't that. It's just a very simple story, a simple premise that has enough injected into it in terms of style and a little bit of quirky humor, 2 great leads, awesome chemistry, and just enough action to satisfy to where it's gonna work for a lot of people. And I had a great time with this movie. Genuinely, I was charmed throughout. I'm just in it with these characters, man. Gary, or really Glen Powell as a whole here, he's just so dynamic, playing all of these different characters. And no, he doesn't disappear like a Jim Carrey or something like that. And somebody said this on Twitter, someone as outgoing as Jim Carrey in his prime would have just dominated this movie, and it would have been one for the ages. Probably, but Glen Powell has that movie star charm, yet he can play this nerdy philosophy teacher very well, and I bought that. That was the one thing I was hesitant. I'm like, I know I can be the cool guy. I know he can disappear into these other roles. Can he play the nerdy, weird, quirky? Yeah, he absolutely can, and he crushes it. So he's perfect. She's perfect. Their chemistry when they're on screen is perfect. The decision-making occasionally, I don't know if I was completely on board with some of the things that they did. I'm like, that just doesn't seem overly realistic. But this premise has a charm to it to where it doesn't have to. And a lot of that leads us to a very surprising final 25 minutes where I didn't think they were going to go in that direction. Now, the overall movie is familiar and kind of predictable, but where they actually go and leave us off, I'm like, man, not everyone's going to like that. But I actually thought it worked really well with the story. And what else were they going to do with what they were setting up here? I thought this movie went in the way that it should have and ended off on a note to where I was fully satisfied with it. So that's what a romantic comedy should do, and that's what this one did. And the other actors really good as well. Retta is always good in a comedic setting, and you're always going to have the jerk in this movie, the guy who just kind of intentionally messes things up, and just the worst type of person. He's in this one, but he's not the only one to make bad decisions. A lot of characters in this movie make bad decisions, and they have to deal with the consequences, or at least try to cover up the consequences of their actions. And so, again, adding in some elements that made this thrilling at times, an action thriller, I guess, but again, not as heavy on the action. Don't expect that, okay? No shootouts here. Maybe one.
It is what it is.
And finally, it has heart. It knows what it is. It knows what it wants. It stays simple and true to itself, and Linklater's direction along with the very creative writing at points, but writing that doesn't go overboard with adding in things that we don't care about. It keeps it simple and carries itself, is packaged like a modern neo-noir, which you don't often see in this genre. So before I give you my score, what did you think of Hitman on Netflix? Are you watching it this weekend? Were you charmed by the performances? Did you like the trajectory of the story? And if you enjoy podcasts, hey, our topic this weekend is Hitman. We're diving into spoilers, the ending, the way that things played out, maybe some hesitancy I had along the way. So join us over there on all podcasting platforms and on YouTube. Not only is Hitman lighthearted and often hilarious, but Linklater has a clear understanding of how to keep viewers on their toes while staying true to the genre at hand. Arjona and Powell are having a blast as the latter is once again cementing his stardom. It delivers more than a few memorable moments and maintains its heart throughout. Again, thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Some things along the way that made for some questions that I had, and it didn't always land, but it does for the most part, and I really enjoyed the way that things wrapped up. Let me know your thoughts on this on Netflix. We'll talk more about Hitman on Movie Mode this weekend, and stay tuned because we still got some movies to review. Check out my Bad Boys review yesterday and plenty more to come. I'll see you in the next video.